Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works workshop. Made it by the skin of my teeth. Every just kept thinking, oh, there's one more thing I got to do. One more thing. Trying to get ready for this morning. It's been a crazy busy week. I have just worked myself to death, and I see people coming on, so I guess we are alive. So I'm assuming it's working. You do have to go under a lot of assumptions when you do these things live like this, especially when you're out here in the country and things just sort of work, sort of. It's been, as I started to say, it's been a crazy busy week. Yeah, I made up my mind on whether I was going to start on my fancy mandolin or the dobro, and I'll tell you about that a little bit later. But that kind of got interrupted. There was somebody showed up this week, and he had a whole carload of instruments. And I meant to put that photo of the trunk of his car, how many instruments were in here. That'll be included in the future video, I'm sure. But anyway, the whole back of his car was just full of instruments. I think he had 15 instruments he brought. So Caleb and I were both really busy on Tuesday and Wednesday, and I was really busy yesterday as Caleb wasn't here. He deserted a sinking ship, that rat. It's left me holding the bag. But anyway, we finished him up yesterday, and his name was Gerald Stewart. And Gerald was really a fine man, a real fine musician. You can tell that he's already forgot more about music than I'll ever know. And that's just the black and white truth of it. That man really did know a lot about music, and it was really fun having him here in the shop. Most of his instruments, I'll be honest, they were on the, I guess you'd call the average end or low end type instruments. A lot of folks would call them wall hangers, but they were all interesting and all kind of cool. And we fixed up a number of them, and a couple of them we decided just it wasn't worth the time and money that would be spent to do it. So a couple of them that way, but for the most part, we got him going. I think we ended up working on 7 or 8 of them anyway. It was fun. And somewhere in between there, I sanded the last hurrah guitar and got the pick guard and the truss rod cover going, and Caleb started that, and actually Caleb made the pick guard and the truss rod cover and then started the finishes. But he doesn't know this yet, but I've already removed all those finishes and started over. So anyway, Caleb doesn't know that, but he knows it now because he's probably watching. So anyway, we've made all kinds of progress this week, but wow, it was busy. And it's taken the toll, trust me, it really has. Got a short program, I think. It could expand, you know how that is with me, because I can always find things to talk about. But I thought I would, someone asked that I show all the mandolins last week, and I ended up not getting around to that. So I've got them here on the bench behind me, and we're going to show those and play all 3 of the mandolins that I still have in my possession. My son has one, my daughter has one, and so actually we have 5 out of a little over 40 that I've built here in our possession. Actually, I have another one too. I have the 3/4 size. I should have brought that down here and played it upside, because you won't believe it sounds almost just like these, and it's only a 3/4 size mandolin. Anyway, I should have brought that one too. If my wife is out there and happens to be watching, and I know she isn't because she could care less. But if she is, she can bring it down. And if she doesn't know where it's at, it's in the closet, in the big closet. Anyway, the next thing here, now that I'm through rambling for the intro, let's go right into this. Just wanted to say thank you to Rick Ward for sending me these wrist or hand pain relief gloves. I appreciate it. I do appreciate the thought about this, and we'll give it a shot. I think my wife already has eyes on this, actually, though. I don't think I'm going to get to wear them. So thank you, Rick. I do appreciate the thought. And for whatever reason, that thing kept cutting off the last word there. I do appreciate the thought, is what every time I would render it, it would cut that word off, so I just gave up. So I thought I could just add that word, thought. Oh, sometimes you just got to roll with it because you can't win, you know. And but thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. Rick also asked about, he sent me an email and asked me about this. What kind of wood filler do I use? Well, there it is right there, Timbermade. I believe this comes from Australia, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't looked that up in a, yep, Australia. They're made in Australia. They make it in about 14,000 colors. This is the only one I buy. It's just the natural color. And then I just dye it or stain it or tint it or whatever I got to do to make it match. You know, if you want to stock 150 colors, go ahead. But for me, I just get the natural and make it work. T-shirts. The T-shirt saga is, you can see the shelves are pretty bare. If you start at the top and you go from left to right, the left is the large, and then the blank space there is the extra large. There are no extra large T-shirts of any size left. Then the next one on the to the right there is the 2X. You can see the top three T-shirts have the 2X. And then on the top three also have 3X left. The very bottom one there, the logo T-shirt, has the 3X, and that's all that's left is just one 3X, it looks like, in the logo. So the top shelf there, just so you know, is I was better, but I'm getting over it. The next one is It's Not Easy Being Me, and the next one is It's Simple But It's Complicated. That's the dark blue, I think, is the color, and I think it's the gray one there is Everything's a Hammer, and those are only available in large on the Everything's a Hammer. So that's it. Once they're gone, they're gone. You know, tomorrow starts the deer season here in Missouri. When I say deer season, archery season's been in for a while, but the rifle season starts tomorrow. So I thought I would just take this opportunity to show you a little bit of footage. I call these my condos. I'm going back to my condominium, you know, and so here's some footage from my condos. I love to sit there, listen to the birds. So you can hear the birds in the background, crows in this case. That is a pileated woodpecker, America's largest woodpecker presently. The ivory bill is supposedly extinct, though there have been reported sightings in Arkansas. And I don't know if they'll actually be able to confirm those or not, that the ivory bill is still alive.
I'm sitting in
This is my other condo
house looking for coyotes and hogs, and I haven't seen anything this morning, but I just wanted to give you the view. It's just wonderful to sit here and listen to the birds and things. It's just a neat place to sit. That's looking back toward the shop and the house down the valley there. I just thought you might get a kick out of seeing this perspective from the farm. I just love sitting here. It's just really very peaceful, very enjoyable to sit here. I did get a coyote out of here about 3 days ago, and I've killed quite a few hogs out of here. They've just tore this field up out here, just tore it up. Well, actually all over it. They tore it up all back through here too. It's just crazy. It's amazing how much damage they can do. And with all that damage, you would think for sure you would see some, but they're pretty much nocturnal. You hardly ever see them during the day. But I have seen them, and when I do, they usually end up in the pot.
Well, I know not everybody is into the hunting thing, and I know that some people are totally opposed to it. But those people that are opposed to it, in my opinion, don't understand it at all. I mean, and probably less than anybody on the planet, they understand it that little. And the reason is because the hunting and the fishing, and I buy my permits every year, even though I rarely ever go out there and do anything. I mean, like I mentioned in the video, I'll sit out there for the hogs and the coyotes. The reason you want to shoot a few coyotes here and there, and I do not want to remove them all. Just to be really clear, I definitely do want coyotes here. But when you have 10 of them after your sheep, and they tearing the ears off your sheep, well, you've probably got a few too many coyotes. When they start attacking domestic animals, that means they've kind of cleared out a lot of their food choices out there. In other words, you rarely see a rabbit here. There's a lot of squirrels here, but squirrels can get up trees so easy, and it's harder for the coyotes to catch the squirrels. So, they turn to whatever they can turn to, and so they started attacking my son's sheep, so I started putting the heat on them. He shot one, I shot one. But, when you get I've never seen a pack of 10 coyotes before. And he said there was probably more than 10, but he counted 10. Anyway, the point is that you do have to control them. In nature, before the white men intervened, the wolves and the cougars and things like that would control the coyotes. Everything kind of controlled itself, but we've kind of messed that all up, and so now we've got to give it a little bit of a helping hand every once in a while, and if you don't, there's other consequences that, like I said, a lot of folks don't understand. I mean, the coyotes will start starving themselves to death, and that's a horrible way to go. Now, I want to tell you something. The coyotes we've shot here, they weren't hungry. They were fat. So that means they're getting plenty to eat. But when you got that many of them, they're killing off everything. They're killing off your turkeys. They're killing off all the baby deer. So they're eating good. But the other animals are suffering when you got that many. So you kind of got to knock them down. I just knock down a few a year, one or two a year. They overpopulate much faster than that. Aha! My wife was watching the video. Look at that. That's a first. No, she's shaking her head. It's not a first.
Rochelle texted me from Ohio.
Oh, Rochelle texted her. So she wasn't watching. So my daughter texted her, so I can't let her off the hook. She wasn't watching. But here's the little 3/4 mandolin, and we'll compare them all later. Now this one's not tuned up, of course. I've already got the other 3 tuned. But anyway, oh well. Now my wife, she really doesn't care too much about music. All she really cares about is something that burns some sort of fuel. If it burns diesel fuel or it burns gasoline, she's into it. That's pretty much the truth. Okay, so let's see. We've covered that. We've covered the condo. We've covered the coyotes and the hogs. Just in case anybody was wondering, what does a wild hog taste like? Well, occasionally they taste like a regular hog, pork. But more often they kind of taste like dirt and earthworms. They really don't. To be truthful, they don't taste all that good most of the time. Every once in a while, though, you get a good one, and it's not too bad, It's really hard to say why that is. I don't know. But anyway. Well, I think, let's see here. Let me look at my list, too, because I often skip over the list. I just look at what's on my screen here. I also wanted to mention one more time that I'm still looking for another 4x4 side-by-side. So if someone has one out there they're wanting to get rid of, let me know. You can send me an email at rosastringworks@gmail.com. Let's see. Okay, I mentioned to you that we've got the pick guard and truss rod cover made for the last hurrah guitar, and you can see it hanging there. Now I'm not going to show it today because I took the strings off of it and I sanded it, but I haven't buffed it back out yet. But there's the pick guard for it. So it, I took all the finish off of it and I just oiled it real good, and I think that's a much better look for a pick guard. And the reason is because your pick will hit that and scratch the finish, where it won't scratch the bare wood like that so much. So with that oil on there, so it won't show the scratches near as badly with this way. So that's why I did that. Okay, so the drum roll. Am I going to build a dobro or am I going to build a fancy mandolin? And I'm going to build a fancy mandolin. And I got this far so far. There you go. And you see that white streak down through there that Mother Nature provided? Well, that white streak will probably not even be visible when I'm done, because when you dye these things and to bring out the color and the stuff, that'll probably be covered over by the dye. You probably won't ever see that anyway. But it's going to be a beautiful mandolin. Look how it kind of changes shape and winks at you when you move it around. It's going to be just gorgeous. You might notice that I added a little extra detail here, an extra little body point. And, why did I do that? I think because I could, And it still looks like it's going to fit in my case. Now, this is not the way they put the body point on most of the ones that have this extra body point. They actually, if you look at them closely, this point here has been turned a different way, and they kind of oppose one another. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to build my standard Lloyd Loar F5 style mandolin and yet add a little flair to it. And this little flair isn't going to change anything in terms of sound or vibration or anything like that. It just adds a little bit of style, and it's going to look cool on the sides when the sides curl up to that, So, and it's very small. I didn't do a very big one, but it's going to be pretty neat. And so this is spruce, hand selected spruce, and I had 5 to choose from, and it took me a long time to decide which one I wanted, but this one's going to be a nice one. You can't really hear it do too much in this shape right now with it being this thick, but it does no doubt. It's just that it doesn't sustain too much in this form, and I don't think this one would really even note out very much, although it might. Yeah, a little bit. It's got a tone to it. It'll tone more as we carve it. So there's that, and then from that quilted maple board, I was able to save this that I can make the neck out of. So I'll make a quilted maple neck, and I even had this much left over, and I might make a quilted maple peg head veneer out of this, and I had this much left over, and of course I'll make the sides out of this. So I was very conservative on doing this, and of course you will see video on all of that down the road. It's going to be a while, so don't hold your breath on wait to see the video on this mandolin. It's probably going to be a little while before that gets started being out there. Yeah, it's going to be really tough to carve this. I remember the last quilted maple mandolin I carved. Oh my gosh, that was, like I told you in the video, I think when I carved that one, if that had been the first one I ever carved, it would have been the last one, because that was that hard to carve. And that's the way this is going to be. And with these hands, I'm going to do a lot of it with machinery. Yeah, you can't do it all, and the detail I will have to do by hand, but it's going to be a slow, arduous, painful process. But I'm going to get it done one way or the other. I think that brings me up to date on where I want to go ahead and do the demo with these 4 instruments, 4 mandolins. So, maybe I'll turn the camera down just a little bit here, where you can see them a little better. I'm gonna back up because these will overdrive that little mic so badly. This is the mandolin I currently play, and just to give you an idea, this is Adirondack spruce top. It's got sycamore back and sides. The sycamore is the tree, one of the trees I cut down right here on the farm. And this one has all the fancy inlay through here. Now this inlay, I tell you exactly how that came about. I was just sitting at my desk one day, I think working at Bell, if I'm, maybe not. This may have been after that. Well, actually, the original design, because I've used the same design on a few mandolins. The original design, I think I was working for AT&T, just doodling on a piece of paper while I was on a long conference call or something. And this vine is what I ended up with. And then I kind of reworked it, resized it and everything to make it fit, and so that the buds, the flower buds, come out on the where the position markers are, the 3, 5, 7, 10, I think it is. I can't remember now on this one, and then 12 and all that. So there's buds, flower buds coming out in those places. I did have them dyed red, but that wears off. So then, of course, it's got the mother of pearl abalone shell inlay up here too, which is nice, but that's all done by hand, and honestly it's not nearly as pretty, in my opinion, in terms of perfection as the ones I'm doing now with the laser cutter. But you know, it just depends on what you want. Of course, it does have the rose carved in the back, like I think all of them do that, have that. This has the James tailpiece. This one does have the Waverly tuning keys on it. Just to give you an idea what it sounds like. That's the one I'm currently playing. This, I think, I'm pretty positive, is the very first one I built out of sycamore. So it's the same tree, basically pretty much the very same mandolin. The difference is this has, I think, Goto or something tuners on it. Some of you guys that recognize the tuning keys will know better than me because I don't remember. I just bought whatever I could get at the time. This has the old Monteleone style type tailpiece that I'm sure I bought from Stuart McDonald. So pretty much similar sound in my opinion. This one, you know, has been sitting in the case for years really, and even the case kind of stuck to it, and you know the foam in there kind of deteriorated, so it's kind of neat. It was good that I got them out. But anyway, just a different look more than anything, and pretty much the same instrument. This one was many moons ago. This was the very second mandolin I ever built, and this one's quite different. This one has a redwood top. This one has bird's eye maple, and the inlay on this, now originally the inlay on this was not very good, and years later when the story is my wife crushed this one with a car. It was in my 2 mandolin case. I have a double mandolin case, and I don't see that laying here handy, but anyway, she backed over it with the car. And the cases I built at the time were very sturdy, and all it did was crack it. It didn't bust it. It just cracked it, and it cracked it in 7 places. And I played it for probably 10 more years with the cracks in it, and you couldn't even really tell it by the sound. It didn't really. And then I took it apart and fixed it, and at that time I redid the inlay, and got it all, perfect. You couldn't even tell it had ever been cracked or broke or anything. I'm not lying to you. Like 1 week later, the lid fell closed, and there was something sitting on top of it, and it cracked it again. You can see the crack there. It's just like, what a pain in the neck. But this has got a really good sound. Redwood is way underused. Redwood for tops, you really should use it. I mean, it's really the only reason I haven't been using it more is because people don't accept it. It's just because it's not traditional. It's not what Lloyd Lohr used, you know what I mean? Of course, he didn't use sycamore either, but I mostly did the sycamore because I could get it right here on my farm, and it was kind of cool to build to actually cut the tree down and build a mandolin out of it. So that's the reason I did the sycamore more than anything. But this used to be the loudest mandolin. Well, not the loudest, but I'll actually say it was the second loudest mandolin I ever heard in my whole life. I thought I had the loudest mandolin, and then I was down at this mandolin workshop put on by Butch Baldessari back in the 90s, and there was a guy down there that had a mandolin that kind of blew this one away. But other than that mandolin, this was the loudest mandolin at that time I had ever heard. After I took it apart and the 7 breaks and stuff and fixed it, it seemed to lose a little bit of the volume. The tone's still there, but the volume got a little bit knocked down for some reason. I don't know why. My fingers are just too sore to try to play stuff like that. Now this one may actually have the Go tuners on it. It's slightly different than that other one, but they're not the Waverleys. And again, it's got the Monteleone tailpiece. This one was before I started carving the rose in the back. So, I didn't start carving the rose in the back till, I think in the 2000s. I don't think I carved it in the 90s. Maybe I did. I don't remember, though, without looking it up. But this mandolin is a really good mandolin. It really is. All of them, though, all 3 of them, I'm very happy with all 3 of them. The one my daughter Rochelle has, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that one too. I was out at her house in Ohio a couple months ago, and wow, I played it for the first time in so many years that I hadn't heard it, and I was pretty blown away by that mandolin. So she's got a good one, and I know she's watching today apparently. Anyway, this is a really good mandolin. I really do like it a lot. I don't know why I don't play it all the time. All of them are good, though. I don't really feel like any one of them is inferior at all. They all really sound good to me. And they all play really good. This one, now, I haven't even tuned it yet, so I have no idea if it's even close. I'll have to put the tuner on it and check it, because this has just been sitting in the case for years and years. And it's a 3/4 size, and that little strap is for a little kid. I can't even get it on my shoulders. So bear with me here as I try to tune it up, or at least check and see if it's in tune. Yeah, it was way high. keep in mind this is a much smaller mandolin. You know, it's quite a bit smaller. And it's kind of hard for these hands to work on this little tiny neck. But it takes me a while to get used to it. Now, I don't even think I can get used to it now with my fingers being this stiff. But before, when I was more flexible, I could play this and play it just as well as I could play the big ones. Still not in tune. Sorry. It's been sitting so long. These strings are really old. Yeah, this is a good little mandolin. It really is. For as small as it is, now it's really got a pretty back. And, you know, it's got the hand. Everything on this mandolin, you know, I call it a 3/4 size. What I did to determine that was, because go search on YouTube or go search anywhere on the internet and see if you can find a 3/4 size mandolin. I was not successful finding one. There probably is one out there somewhere, but I couldn't find one. And so I had no idea of really how to determine how to build a 3/4 size. Well, so what I did was I got a 3/4 size fiddle, compared it to a full size fiddle, and everything I worked out, it became on a ratio, it was 90%. So I made every single thing on this at 90%, including the fretboard. I mean, I actually hand cut every fret and put them at 90 percentile of where they should have been. It all worked out perfectly. The only thing I left full size was the peg head. The peg head is actually full size, and the reason I did that was because of the tuning keys, you know. And anyway, but everything else is exactly 90% of a full size one. And that worked out on the ratio to make it a 3/4 size. Size compared to this, to the full size as a 3/4 violin compared to a full size violin. That's how I determined it. And anyway, it worked out great. I carved all the thicknesses to 90%, you know what I mean? Like every single detail, every detail down to the 1,000th of an inch. It's an exact replica of a Lloyd Loar mandolin at 90% or 3/4 size. This one doesn't have a deer antler saddle on it, and you might be wondering why that is. Just because I haven't taken time to put one on there. The guy that I built this for, this was a custom order for a little girl. I think she was 2 or 3 at the time. I mean, like, she was really small. And anyway, I built it for her, and they knew she would never be very big just because small ran in their family, number one, and number two, she was a little extra small, you know. And so anyway, so she ended up playing it, and she really got very good on it. And you know, the long story short is the family kind of was hurting for money, and they were selling off a lot of everything they owned and to get out of debt or something. And I heard they were selling this, so I went and bought it back. And that's the true story. That's why I ended up with it. And I kind of decided I don't ever really want to sell it. I had it up for sale for a while, but it's just such a cool little instrument, and I don't know, I really like it. But it's definitely one of a kind. You won't probably find an F5 style 3/4 size anywhere. At least I doubt you will. I think that does it on all the stuff I was going to show off this morning. I haven't been watching for comments, so if you want to ask some questions or whatever, we could do that. It looks like we've got, about 25 minutes left or something along that line. I want that 3/4 size so bad. Well, I don't know. I don't know if my wife will let me sell it. My wife is actually the one that really doesn't want me to sell that one. Me personally, I would probably sell it because I'm not going to play it, and it's kind of sad to let it sit around, you know. So anyway, I probably won't sell it though. Sam Bush and Jerry's Pinky story. Yeah, well, I've told that so many times now, Jeff, I hate to tell it again. I can tell you a story about the 3/4 size one, though, I thought was pretty cool. And I've told this on here once, I think, before maybe, but it's the truth. And I kind of almost wish I could change the names to protect the innocent, because I'm not wanting to belittle anybody, but I'm going to tell you the true story. This is the truth of it. I was at a jam session, and well, actually, I was in a jam session at a bluegrass show. It was at a hotel, and there was a big name performer there, Rhonda Vincent, and I know Rhonda, you know, just kind of at arm's length. I don't know her very well, but I know her, and she knows who I am. And anyway, we were in the middle of a jamming on a tune, and this guy comes running up, and he's just in a frantic. I mean, he's almost like in a sweat. I mean, he was so excitable, like, and he was going like, "Are you Jerry Rosa? Are you Jerry Rosa?" I go, "Yeah," you know. I mean, like, you could just see he was just like this, and I go, "Well, Rhonda Vincent wants to see you." I go, "Rhonda Vincent wants to see me?" And he goes, "Yeah, can you come right now?" I mean, like, we're in the middle of playing a song. And I said, "Okay." So I just quit playing, and I follow this guy. Well, you know, it was backstage, and they have guards around there and stuff, and I didn't have a ticket to the show. I just came to jam with friends out in the lobby and that kind of thing. It was just, for me, it was just a fun time to play some music. Well, anyway, make a long story short, we talked the guard into letting me go back to see Rhonda because she wanted to talk to me. And so I went backstage, and Rhonda was there. And anyway, Rhonda said, "I want you to make me one of those 3/4 size mandolins for my niece." And at the time, I was only getting $2,500 for my mandolins. And now you got to remember, this was quite a long time ago, about 20 years ago now, I guess, or close to it. Anyway, she goes, "Oh, I didn't know it'd be that much." I thought, "For that?" Gee whiz. And I don't mean, I don't mean to belittle her or anything, but I mean, I think they were getting something like $10,000 or $12,000 per show at that time. And I'm thinking, and it takes me, it takes her 45 minutes to make that, and it took me how many hours to build this thing? I mean, like 40 hours or more. So, I didn't feel like I was going to come down. I mean, a lot of people, just to put them in the hands of a big star, would just give it to them. Well, and if she was going to play it herself, I probably would have. But, yeah, I wasn't going to come down on the price for her to give it to somebody else. So we didn't make the deal. But I just thought that was kind of a funny story, that, how excited this guy was. And it was just like, man, she wants to see you like real bad. I'm going, what's she want to see me about, But turned out we couldn't make a deal. So let's see what questions we have. I see a bunch of them scrolling up the screen, so I'm going to scroll back up here and try to read some of them. What type of tone is sycamore? Well, you just heard it. What type of tone would you call it? I think it's just really nice. It sounds very good to me. I think sycamore has a very good sound, and I think it has, again, like redwood, I think it's underrated, underused. Now, I will tell you the difference on the sycamore is it's way harder to dry the wood properly. It's not that it's hard to dry, it's hard to keep it flat while it's drying. It wants to twist and curl and cup, and it just doesn't dry pretty. But if you cut through all of the twisting and stuff, it's very stable. Once it does dry, it's very stable, just like any other wood. It doesn't keep moving and changing. It just changes while it's drying, and once it's dry, it's done, you know. But other than that, sycamore is really a very good tone wood. Okay. Let's see. Man, that tone. Thank you. I want that 3/4 so bad. Okay, I've seen that part, so I'm scrolling through this. Black mandolins makes them in a style 3/4 size. Huh, I've never heard of black mandolins, I don't think. But I've never seen a 3/4. I truly never have. I searched a bunch of different times and never could find one. Rainblaze asks, hey Jerry, how much do you find one instrument changes in tone from one Mando to another and that you think makes a difference? Would you build them all the same? You know, I honestly, I know there's a difference, but they don't sound that different to me. They all are very consistent. I mean, lots and lots of makers, and really that's always been the buzzword down through time. Every one you build is different. Well, that's true to an extent with mine even. Mine more, it's the looks that's different on each one more than it is the sound. The sound is super consistent, I think. I mean, yeah, they're a little different each one, no question about it, but they're not that different compared to a lot of things that you hear. Like, you know, you can hear one Martin guitar and it's really something, and the next one is like, it's good, but it's not like that other one, you know what I mean? And mine are all pretty consistent. I mean, they really are. And I think it's because I spend so much time making sure every detail is exactly the same. So that's my theory. I'm sticking to it. I don't know. Rosa is my name. R-O-S-A, Rosa. And that's how I've always pronounced it. That was the question. What made you decide on the lower pattern? Well, because most people think it's the best, I guess, is really. My uncle, Don Brown of the Ozark Mountain Trio, who John Hartford started with Don Brown and the Ozark Mountain Trio, if you know who John Hartford is. Back when I was just a kid, I would go to their practices, and of course, you know, as I was growing up, Don would hear of nothing but his Lloyd Loar mandolin. You know, I mean, like there was no other mandolin out there. In other words, if you weren't playing a Gibson Lloyd Loar mandolin, you were just not playing a mandolin. You know, that's pretty much that's just, you know, he was pretty blunt about that. And so when I started wanting to build my own, of course, well, then I, you know, naturally biased toward that. But the truth is, I think most people that, especially in bluegrass, would say that the Lloyd Loar is the epitome of mandolins, just like Stradivari is the epitome of violins. Let's see. How is the redwood for guitar top? Well, I showed that last week. Redwood is an awesome guitar top. It's awesome. I mean, like that. My redwood guitar that I played last week on the show, and you can watch that one, that was number 46. Man, when I listened back to it myself on my stereo in the house, it was like, wow. No wonder everybody wants to record with that guitar. Seriously, when I would let people play it in the studio, they could be playing their really fine guitar, you know, and whenever they would play that one, they'd go, can I use this to record with? And they would record with it. It really recorded well. It's a very good sounding guitar. And keep in mind, that was the very first guitar I ever built. You prefer Padauk on guitar back and side. I plan to make a classical guitar with Padauk. I did not found one up now. Do you think I should give it a try? I'm not sure what he means there. I did not found one up to now. Is that a classical guitar with Padauk? Probably, you probably won't find one because Padauk is not, again, it's kind of one of those woods that people just don't think to use. And Padauk, in my opinion, I truly don't think I've ever found any tone wood that has more tone than Padauk. Rosewood is very good, don't get me wrong. Lots of other woods are very good, but Padauk is just as good, and in my opinion, maybe a hair better than most of them. So Padauk's really good. It really is. Just it, had Martin started out with Padauk, then everybody'd be using Padauk. I guarantee you. Jesse Burge, have you ever used zirconi for an instrument? No, I haven't, but I've seen it in the stores and stuff. And yeah, if I had more time and energy, I'd probably would, because it looked like a good one too. Zebra wood, there's a lot of them. Now, some of them are, I don't want to say poisonous, but a lot of them really do give off some pretty noxious smells, and or sawdust is more harmful than others, that type of thing. So some of those you got to be a little bit careful with. You ought to check into some of that. Of course, none of it's good to breathe, don't get me wrong, but some of them are worse than others. I don't know much about it, Jesse, but zirconi would look like a good option to me. So probably want to go cherry for my back and sides. Cherry is pretty good, but honestly, cherry, it's not bad. I mean, you could build a nice instrument out of cherry, but in my opinion, it's not quite as resonant as a lot of some of the other woods are. So, there's that. I mean, it's a nice wood though. And it could be used. I use cherry sometimes as like in the detail, like maybe the strip of wood up the neck or something like that. I'll use cherry maybe instead of walnut, but I typically don't use it in the instrument itself, though I'm sure it could make a decent instrument. Know you've made many innovations in your shop, and I was wondering if your workbench has some special features. Also, do you keep your shop in certain temperature range? Yeah, I do keep it in a certain temperature range. I try not, I never really let it get below 50, and I never really let it get much above, low 80s. So between 50 and low 80s is about where I keep it. And, during the week while we're in here, I mean, like during working hours, it stays around 68, 70, somewhere in there. In terms of the workbenches, no real super innovations. I use Formica tops on my benches. I think I kind of did that by accident to start with, but I think that's the best top you can put on a workbench. I really do. I've got other workbenches in other places on the farm, and man, these Formica tops, they're hard to beat. I would recommend them. They're very heavy too. Formica is super heavy. So when you set it down, and then all my workbenches are made with very heavy steel. So the bench itself with the Formica top on top of the steel legs and the steel frame, and it's heavy steel. It's not lightweight stuff. Yeah, it's all welded up. Very heavy workbenches. Yeah, I can't really say enough good things about heavy workbenches either. So that's the only thing that's unique about my workbenches is the Formica top and the heavy steel frames. And they're very heavy. They're all welded up. Takes 2 men and a boy to pick one up and move it. And actually, it would be better if you had 3 men and a boy. Let's see. The word luthier comes from the instrument lute, but what is the difference between lute and mandolin? Well, the truth is, I probably not the very best to answer that. I mean, I've seen, there's a lot of instruments called lutes that look a little different here and there, a little different shape, and I don't know, I'm not an expert on all that, to be truthful, so I'm not going to try to pretend that I am. I'm just going to pass on that one. What causes the guitar neck to need a reset? Well, really, it's about the only thing that causes it is the angle of the neck to the body. Now, a lot of people, and this is where I think neck resets get screwed up. Lots and lots and lots of people do neck resets when they should do something else. And you say, well, what would that be? Well, I mean, like if the top is bulged up, pulled up, and the bridge is sitting up like this, you know, and I'm exaggerating, of course, but you know what I'm saying. If the bridge is kind of pulled up like that, and the top is bellied up, there's your problem. You know, fix that first. Get that fixed first. Then, if it needs a neck reset, do a neck reset. But you know, so many people just do a neck reset because it needs a neck reset. Well, they don't always need a neck reset. And on a percentage basis, I probably do fewer neck resets than probably anybody that does this kind of work. Yeah, because so often it's not the neck reset. But truly, when they do, the neck, you know, and I'm exaggerating again, but when that neck is cocked up like this, and it should actually be cocked just barely, slightly down, and I mean like just barely down, then you need a neck reset, you know, when it's up. But so, and what causes that to go up? A number of things. I've seen, you know, again, it could be other underlying problems. You could have a loose neck block. And, you know, if that's the case, you need to fix that, you know, and then see if you need a neck reset. You know, there could be something broke right along the, let me point instead. Let me get a guitar here. You'll often see a guitar broke right here and right here. You'll see the break go right through the hole, you know. That redwood guitar of mine, I told you I was hanging up painting it and it hit the ground and yeah, it broke right there and I've never fixed it. And truly that one probably needs to be fixed. It's right on the edge of just barely being able to play it. But anyway, the point is you'll see that sometimes and that will cause the neck to come up because that breaks the braces and everything, or it breaks loose the support in that area and that'll make the neck come up. The sides could actually be loose from the back here. That'll make the neck come up for sure, you know, or the neck block could be loose here. A gazillion things can make the neck come up, and you don't really need a neck reset in those cases. If a neck is done well, like from a Martin guitar, for the most part, you just don't usually need to do a neck reset. Now that 12-string Martin that we had in here not too long ago, and you just recently saw the video, after all the things we checked out, it needed a neck reset, you know, and every once in a while you just got to do what you got to do. But so often that's the first thing people go to rather than fixing the other problems. And that's why people say, why are you so opposed to neck resets? I'm not. Do a neck reset when you need to do a neck reset. It's kind of like your car. So often the car won't start. Oh, I got to get me an alternator. Did you just check your connections on your battery? You know, it might just be that simple. You know, it's so often it's just the simple thing or some other thing. It's not the worst thing, you know what I mean? And to me, the worst thing is having to do a neck reset. That's pretty hard to fix, you know, a lot of times. So, you know, and if you think about it, somebody like Martin, they kind of know how to put a neck in a guitar, you know. They kind of do know how to do that. And so for the most part, makes you think, well, why would it not be right, you know? So usually something else gave loose or whatever is the reason why I say you don't usually need to do a neck reset. Every once in a while, you do, you know, no matter who makes it. Sometimes you'll have to do a neck reset. So, and the only other time I know, the only other time that you might need to do a neck reset is just simply they just didn't quite get it right at the factory. You know, like maybe the slot was too big, you know, and the dovetail was loose in there and they didn't shim it properly or something like that. And over time the glue will give, you know, and it will pull it up. So I guess that's my 2 cents on it. Maybe that was 25 cents worth. Anyway, this is scrolled up again, so I'm going to back up again. Can you do a sound comparison with these mandolins so we can get higher audio quality on a video? Yeah, someday maybe I'll try to do that. You know, I'm going to wait until Starlink gets here and all that kind of thing before we do too many more live audio things. And I'm hoping Starlink gets here pretty soon. Doggone it. I'm looking here. I see things that kind of look like questions, but they don't have the question marks in front of it. So I'm looking for the ones with the question marks in front of it. If you don't have question marks in front of it, you might want to repost it with those question marks. We're just about to run out of time here. What causes the guitar? Oh, I did that one. Can you? All right. Well, maybe we're out of. No, here we go. Will you still be offering the overnight stay at the Valley Springs Ranch Retreat guitar repair in 2022? Well, John, good question. I am slowing everything way down. And I got to be honest, I'm considering even slowing that down. But right now, if you walk the instrument into me or if you bring it to the retreat, I'll accept it. But that's the only way, because it's time to slow all this down. It really is. I really hate to even talk about the problems. I really do, because it seems like I'm crying for, sympathy or something, and I'm not. But just in the last 2 weeks, it's gotten way worse. It really has. The knuckles are swollen. I don't know if you can see how big the knuckles are, but they're swelling up really bad. I don't know if it'll show up, but there's a knot on this one here, on this knuckle, and this thumb will hardly bend at all from this joint up. It is just getting really bad. It's getting really bad. So they're starting to deform on top of the. My mom had the deforming kind. What is that? The rheumatoid, and my dad had the osteo. I truly think I've got both. I really do, and it's seriously getting bad. For the longest time, the joints in the fingers didn't hurt, but now they're hurting. So, it was just the joint through the thumb and the hand, and the whole thumb and the hand through here was mostly my problem in the past, but now it's the actual fingers. So, there you go. And truly, I have tried just everything, and people keep offering suggestions, and I keep trying them. There was one came in this last week that I'll probably try. I haven't tried it yet because I haven't been to the store. But I've been using the CBD oil, or it's kind of a salve that I've been putting on my hands, and I truly don't feel anything. The only benefit I get from all these salves and ointments is it kind of softens my hands, because my hands are really dry working in wood all day long, especially during the winter. So that's the only benefit I'm getting, is that I'm getting a little softer feel to my hands, because they get kind of leathery hard. But honestly, I have not felt one bit of pain relief from anything I've tried. Not one bit, not even a tiny amount, other than the meloxicam, like I said. And if I don't take the meloxicam, truly, it's all over. So as long I got to get the meloxicam. Okay, anyway, I'm off of that again. I hate to even talk about it, but should I loosen the strings on the seldom used guitars? Yes, I do recommend that. I don't always follow my own advice, but that's what I recommend. I do recommend you just loosen the strings on them, 2 or 3 turns per string, and let it set that way. It's much better on it. In your opinion, what would be side option for a guitar that has redwood top? Well, almost any good back and side will work with a redwood top. I'm sure you could use, rosewood if that's what you want. I'm sure you could use mahogany. I'm sure you could use Padauk. Padauk is what I used. It's a killer combination in my opinion. So the reason I keep pushing the Padauk, another reason, and I guess it doesn't hurt me now to push it even more, because I'm pretty much done, but you can find it in the hardwood lumber stores, and you can usually find it quarter sawn, and so you just go there, pick it out, and take it home with you, and so it's not too hard to find usually. So anyway, almost anything that you can use spruce with, the redwood would be just fine. I'm not a big fan on maple back and sides guitars. Now, I know a lot of people are, and the fellow up there that was with Victor, and again, I tangle all my names up, so I'm not even going to try. But Victor's the only one I can remember, because he was my loyal fan, and Went to his house, and that fellow built them out of maple, and they were really good sounding guitars. But overall, I'm not a big fan of maple back inside guitars. So, it needs to be a wood that when you pick it up and you tap it, you can hear a sustained note. And if you can hear a sustained note in it, it'll probably be a good back and sides. Doyle Blevins, if you have a chip in the finish, how is the best way to blend the finish? Well, Doyle, again, I back up and kind of say that I'm not the finish expert. I really am not. There are times when the CA glue filling works really good, and there are times when you can see that a mile away. And also with the CA glue, when you fill, you got to be very careful because it will run everywhere if you're not careful. So CA glue is a good way to fill a little chip or something. And often you can blend that pretty well, but honestly, it just takes forever to fill them with regular finish, whatever kind of finish was used. But if you keep filling them with that and keep sanding and buffing and stuff, that's probably your best in terms of not being able to see it, So I'm just not a finish expert. I wish I was. I'm just not. What is the difference between a generator and an alternator? A generator is pretty much all DC, the way I understand it, and the alternator is AC, is pretty much the way I understand it, though I'm not 100% sure on all of that. The alternator, for the most part, is much more reliable because and here's my take on that. It's firsthand experience, so I'm going on my firsthand experience, and that is when you have a tractor that has a generator, the battery's always dead. Pretty much always. I mean, it works to a certain degree and it works pretty good, but you'll find the battery dead a lot more often with a generator than you will with an alternator, and that's just the bottom line. So to me, the alternator is more powerful. It's more reliable, if not more powerful. That's about the most I can tell you about that. What is the difference? Okay, let's see. Have you used elk antler before instead of, yeah, elk antler is excellent, but the problem with the way antler works, the bigger it is, the more porous it is. So like you would think, well, use moose antler, you get tons of it out of there. Well, no, not necessarily, because even those palmated big blades, pretty much those are hollow on the inside, so they're not as thick as you think they are. Because they get bigger, nature makes them lighter. They're really strong, but they're lighter, And so the odd thing about the elk is that for the most part, they don't make mandolin saddles very well because I need a thick piece of bone. And it's just the outer shell that's really good. But it is really good for I use it for guitar saddles. I don't hardly ever make a mandolin saddle or a mandolin nut or any kind of nut out of the elk because it's just too much porosity. Too much fiber once you get inside the outer shell. So the elk works great, don't get me wrong, but it's mainly for guitar saddles. It seems very ironic that something that massive, you can only use it that thick, So but that's kind of the truth. So elk is good. Let's see here. I'm going to take just one more question, and then we're going to call today done, I think. And I don't act on here. Have you tried to consider chiropractic for your hands? No, I have not tried anything chiropractic for my hands. People either believe in chiropractors or you don't. I went to 3 different chiropractors, maybe 4, now that I think about it. I think it was 4. And all 4 times I wished I had not gone, and they were all 4 different chiropractors. I'm just not a chiropractor guy, I guess. One of them I hobbled into the chiropractor, and I physically, literally crawled out on my hands and knees. I could not walk. And I'm not big on chiropractors. But so besides that, I wear these things like last night. I wore them. These things that go grip your hands and hold your hands in a particular position and don't let your hands move. That helps me sleep because it lessens the pain. But the negative is like so I can sleep a little better. But the negative is the next morning when I take it off, it just kills me to take it off because it's so tight and it deforms my hand, and then my hands are back to hurting again. So it's like they're great. If I just took a scissors and cut them off, my hands would probably feel a lot better, you know. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a bad deal, you know, guys. You just sometimes some things you just got to accept. It's just not changeable, and this is one of those things that I believe is not changeable. I truly do. I don't think I can fix it, and most of the doctors that have seen me, they don't think they can fix it either. So. Okay, there are no rules, only guidelines. Well, that may be true. Except you might have to tell that to the judge. If you're in court, you know, you might try to convince the judge of that. How about reindeer antler? I'm sure reindeer antler would work too. Any kind of antler. Now, horn is different. A lot of people don't understand the difference between horn and antler. Horn is hair. It's matted hair. You know, like buffalo, that's matted hair that's forming that horn. And it's very hard. It's very tight, but when you start cutting that and stuff, you can actually peel the little hairs out of it. Now you can sand it smooth and all that and polish it and all that, but if you start working with it, those little tiny hairs will actually pull out of that. I mean, you can actually it's I wouldn't exactly call them hairs, but that's kind of what it is. It's more of a fiber. So antler is different. It's bone. So there's the difference between horn and bone. Anything that has bone for antlers, yeah, it should work just fine. Tusk, like walrus tusk and things like that, is fine. Ivory, but it's much harder on your equipment. It's very hard stuff, and it borderline, in my opinion, is harsh because it's so hard. But ivory and all that would work too if you can get it. Now, people have this thing about this fossilized ivory. Well, you know, a lot of that's just baloney. Fossilized ivory might be legal in terms of that it's grandfathered, but if it truly, truly is fossilized, then it's stone, because fossils are stone. You know, so they just use a lot of hype words to just make things sound exotic and really cool and all that. Just beware of a lot of that crap. A lot of it is just marketing crap, and that's really all it is. So anyway, there you go. Let's see. What cannot be cured must be endured. And you are correct on that one, and I think that's going to be our final word for today. Thank you so very much for tuning in. It doesn't look like we broke 200 today. We only got 184. Well, doggone it, we went downhill. So I hope you enjoyed today's program. If you have any real good ideas about the next week's program you want me to cover, send them to me in an email, and I'll definitely consider them. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week, same time, same place.